This is CGTN, China Global Television Network.
Son of Libya's former leader Muammar Gaddafi officially registers to run for president. Kenyan president meets with Ethiopian prime minister as AU envoy maintains there is hope for dialogue. And mixed reactions follow the announcement of a new deal to fight climate change. Hello and welcome to CGTN. This is Africa Live, the program that brings you African and global news from all perspectives. I'm Mahia Mutua in Nairobi. Well, ahead of the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken's arrival in Kenya on Monday, Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta met with the Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed in Addis Ababa on Sunday. President Kenyatta's visit to Addis Ababa came just a day after Ethiopia and Eritrea condemned the U.S. sanctions on Eritrea over its involvement in the Ethiopian conflict. Let's now get the details of the meeting from our reporter Girum Chala, who is joining us live now from Addis Ababa. Girum, what more can you tell us about the meeting between the Kenyan and Ethiopian leaders?
I welcome my dear brother to his second home, wrote Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed when he announced on his official Facebook page about the arrival of Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta here in Addis Ababa. Already the two have had discussions, several topics, of course, on the ongoing conflict in the north. President Uhuru also met Sahle Work, the president of the country. Now, Maya, we know that ahead of, as you have said, a U.S. Secretary of State's visit to Nairobi, President Uhuru is here in order to perhaps add some kind of motion to the already existing discussion between the Ethiopian authorities, the TPLF, and also the African Union mediator, Olusegun Obasanjo, former president of Nigeria, to solve this ongoing conflict peacefully. So President Uhuru is already engaging, as I said, and they have also made African Union officials in this discussion. The idea is to also, in the next few days, to achieve some sort of ceasefire between the two warring parties, the central government and the TPLF. So there are no official communications out of their discussions, but we're waiting to hear results in the next few hours, Maya.
All right, Girum, great to see you as always. CGTN's Girum Chala joining us live there from Addis Ababa. Well, the outcome of the discussions between the Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta and the Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed is expected to feature in deliberations when the United States Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrives in Nairobi on Monday. Blinken is scheduled to visit Kenya, Nigeria and Senegal from November the 15th to the 20th. The visit comes at a time when a section of countries in the Horn of Africa region are experiencing conflict or political turmoil. CGTN's Wilkista Nyabwa reports.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken will begin his trip in Nairobi, where he will meet with Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta and the Cabinet Secretary for Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Rachel Omamo. The visit comes as several events continue to unfold across the East African region. During the visit, Blinken and representatives of the Kenyan government are expected to address the regional security concerns around Ethiopia, Somalia and Sudan. The United States on Friday imposed sanctions on the Eritrean military and other entities as Washington steps up pressure on parties to the conflict to bring an end to fighting in northern Ethiopia. A section of Western countries have expressed concern over the decision by Sudan's Army Chief Abdel Fattah al-Burhan to appoint a new ruling body weeks after he led a military takeover in the fragile African country, and Kenya has heightened vigilance across the country in the face of the unfolding security situation in the region. In the upcoming talks, Secretary Blinken will further advance discussions on U.S.-Kenyan cooperation on ending COVID-19, improving clean energy access, and protecting the environment. The United States and Kenya also have many other shared interests, having begun free trade agreement negotiations in 2020 under then-President Donald Trump. With Kenya scheduled to hold its elections in 2022, America has expressed support for a peaceful election. From Nairobi, Blinken will travel to Abuja to meet with Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari before heading to Dakar, Senegal, to hold talks with Senegalese President Macky Sall. Wilkes Anyabwa, CGTN.
Well, let's go to Libya now, where the son of former leader Muammar Gaddafi has filed for candidacy in next month's presidential race. Saif al-Islam Gaddafi has rarely appeared in public since the 2011 uprising that ousted his father. Here now is more with CGTN's Adel Mahroui.
Late Libyan President Muammar Gaddafi's second eldest son joins the presidential race. Saif al-Islam appeared wearing a traditional Libyan outfit just like his father, signing his candidacy application at the nation's elections committee.
His appearance showed that Saif al-Islam is well, safe and free. It's good indication that he was given the opportunity to file his candidature like any other Libyan. He appeared in Sabah, a city secured by Libyan National Army, which is a strong indication to who could be supporting him.
Saif al-Islam's political ambitions to lead Libya were clear during his father's rule. The 2011 uprising, however, saw him imprisoned for 5 years until he cleared his name from all criminal accusations in domestic courts.
I think he has one of the strongest chances in the presidential race. He can bank on the legacy of his father. What happened after 2011 of chaos and instability could be in his favor. He must, however, show rational policy for the coming period in Libya. He will need to rebuild trust between all Libyans.
The International Criminal Court still has an active arrest warrant against Saif al-Islam for accusations of war crimes during the uprising. ICC has not yet convicted him of any crime. The son of the late President Muammar Gaddafi officially returns to political life for the first time since the 2011 uprising. Saif al-Islam is by far the most controversial candidate in this presidential race. Already, some political groups are trying to stop his candidature by appealing to the elections committee. Adel Mahroui, CGTN, Cairo.
Now, after 2 weeks of climate negotiations, delegates at the United Nations COP26 summit are claiming victory with a new deal to fight climate change. But reactions to the agreement are mixed. CGTN's Wilkes Anyabwa takes a look at how the new climate deal affects developing countries, including in Africa.
Several hours after the Friday deadline, negotiators from almost 200 countries at the COP26 summit in Glasgow announced that they had arrived at a deal. Delegates had held lengthy discussions to resolve concerns including phasing out coal, fossil fuel subsidies and creating a fund to support low-income countries grappling with the effects of climate change. However, at the last minute, India, one of the world's biggest burners of coal, proposed new language in the deal that would request governments to phase down coal use rather than phase it out. Several countries expressed disappointment but said they would still support the deal to ensure the negotiations did not collapse.
I think what we've achieved here is something really quite remarkable. Now, on the issue of coal, I should point out, Trevor, that for the very first time in any of these conferences, the word coal is actually reflected in the text. That, again, is a first. Yes, of course, I would have liked to ensure that we maintain the phase out and rather than changing the wording to phase down. But, you know, on the way to phasing out, you've got to phase down.
Delegations have been working to draw up a plan to reach the global goal of capping global heating at 1.5 degrees Celsius. Scientists say if global temperatures rise by more than 1.5 degrees Celsius, the Earth is likely to experience severe effects. And developing countries are already grappling with the impact of climate change.
Us as developing nations, we do need energy, and coal is a good way of doing so. But there are other means and more environmentally friendly means for African countries to develop. And what would be best is if we can actually develop in a way that is more just and fair and not repeat the mistakes of what the developed world has done, which has led to this escalation in climate change.
During the first week of the talks, countries made a myriad of promises, with 137 countries pledging to reverse deforestation and reduce methane emissions by the year 2030.
Africa, especially sub-Saharan Africa, heats up twice as much as what the global average temperatures are. And we already have water and food crisis issues all over the continent. So we need more stricter measures.
However, with the summit now closed, analysts have raised concerns that the resolutions made in the Glasgow Climate Pact may not be enough to put global climate change efforts on the right track. Wilkes Anyabwa, CGTN.
Now, many people came to Glasgow for COP26 expecting leaders to agree to a step change in the pace and scale of climate action. While the step change didn't happen, the World Wildlife Fund says most of the world's leaders are moving in the right direction.
We were frustrated with the last-minute developments, the weakening of the language on fossil fuels, but we also acknowledge that some items have moved. For example, we finished the rule book, there is a recognition of nature in the text, and we also see the call for revising 2030 targets. We think those are all important elements, but we think, for example, the loss and damage piece and the adaptation piece are not where we need them to be. I think that Africa is a continent that is mostly vulnerable and not responsible for the bulk of climate emissions. So I think adaptation and loss and damage are big agendas for Africa. And since the next COP will be in Africa, I hope that the next COP can focus strongly on those two issues of loss and damage and adaptation, mobilizing stronger finance commitments to tackle this.
Now, at least one person has been killed in an earthquake in Iran's Hormozgan province. State television reports that a man was killed by an electric post which fell in the coastal city of Bandar Abbas due to the strong quake. The Iranian Seismological Center puts the magnitude of the earthquake at 6.4 that took place at 3:37 p.m. local time on Sunday. Almost 2 minutes later, a 6.3 magnitude aftershock hit the city. According to an official spokesperson, the seisms were felt across Hormozgan province and some neighboring counties of Kerman province. Electricity, telephone and internet supply has been disrupted in some quake-affected rural areas. Rescue teams are currently evaluating the damage. Polish police say they have arrested 22 Iraqi citizens. They were among 50 migrants who broke through defenses on the border with Belarus on Saturday. Thousands of migrants have been trying to cross the closed border in freezing conditions. Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko ordered tents to be set up on Saturday as the humanitarian crisis escalates. This comes after the body of a young Syrian man was found near the border, bringing the number of migrant deaths to 11. The European Union accuses Minsk of orchestrating the crisis in response to sanctions. Russian President Vladimir Putin says Russia is ready to help resolve the migrant crisis on the border between Belarus and Poland. Putin has blamed Western countries for creating the crisis by invading Iraq and Afghanistan. Julia Chapman has more.
There were a few shows of military support from the Russian side last week, including those drills carried out by paratroopers from both countries on Friday, in which actually 2 Russians died. There were also Russian long-range bombers sent over Belarusian airspace on Wednesday and Thursday, close to the Polish border area. So although Russia says it isn't involved, it's certainly showing symbolically that it supports Minsk in its stance on this crisis, which is that both of the countries, Belarus and Russia, blame the EU for this migrant crisis. Firstly, for not letting the migrants into the European Union, and it says that Vladimir Putin, the Russian president, has said that he believes the EU isn't living up to its humanitarian values, but also for creating the migrant flows in the first place, President Putin having pointed to Western military interventions in the Middle East, which he believes is partly to blame for the flow of people.
We're taking a short break here on Africa Live. Here's what's coming up. We look at South Africa's battle with diabetes as the world marks Diabetes Day.
Africa is a continent of diversity, with varied climates and enchanting geography. and a people so distinct, but with a shared enduring spirit. We are at the heart of the continent to bring you the untold stories.
Let's have a look.
We celebrate Africa as it shapes its own destiny.
Tunis, Cairo,
Juba,
Johannesburg, Ethiopia,
Tanzania.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
Welcome back and thank you for staying with us on Africa Live. Now to South Africa, where World Diabetes Day is being observed with a continued commitment to broaden access to care for all people living with diabetes. While socio-economic disparities and other factors have contributed to the prevalence of diabetes in the country, state hospitals do provide care. NGOs are also playing a pivotal role in raising awareness, educating citizens and lobbying the government for greater access to better facilities to treat people living with diabetes. Here now is CGTN's Travis Andrews with that report.
Diabetes is one of the leading causes of death in South Africa, but it can be prevented and treated in a number of ways. Providing support to people living with diabetes is crucial, especially in Cape Town, where huge socio-economic disparities persist. It is organizations such as Diabetes SA that provide this critical support to combat the metabolic disease.
Diabetes is the leading cause of death in women in South Africa, and it's the second leading cause of death overall, and we are 0.1% behind TB as the leading cause of death. So it means that, we've gone from being fifth a few years ago and behind HIV and AIDS, if you want to associate it as a race. Diabetes is now very, very close to being the first leading cause of death overall.
For many people living with diabetes, managing their blood glucose levels is key. It is a daily process that must be constantly monitored. For the more than 5 million people living with diabetes in South Africa, some of the biggest challenges include acceptance after diagnosis, lifestyle changes, and resilience. Sally Hendricks is one of many people living with the disease. He was diagnosed 39 years ago with type 1 diabetes, and the disease has claimed many of his relatives. Today, he works to promote diabetes awareness and access to care to those within his community.
Against Africa, we still got a long way to go for all medical aids actually to approve it because of the cost factor. Being in the public sector, I had all the care that was there for the 22 years. My mental health, if I needed a psychologist, it was there.
While Sally communicates with a broad global network of people living with diabetes, he also provides support to Cape Townians who often struggle to find the correct care.
I've been motivating people now for the last, can say, 3 to 4 months that has been or struggling to actually accept that they have to go for an amputation. They're struggling with their diabetes. So the awareness that I actually make around is more in the community life. If people can't actually get help with a psychologist, I will actually tell them where to go.
For now, the public and private sectors, as well as civil society, all face a common enemy and a common objective: to provide the best care possible to all South Africans living with diabetes. Travis Andrews, CGTN, Cape Town.
Now, a high-profile meeting of the Communist Party of China has adopted a landmark resolution on the major achievements and historical experience of the CPC's 100 years of endeavors. Zambian experts have hailed as positives the outcomes of the just concluded 6th plenary session of the 19th CPC Central Committee in Beijing, China. Let's listen in.
100 years of the CPC is a milestone that needs to be celebrated because many good has come out of it. Most critically, a very qualified, vibrant, disciplined leadership that has ensured effectiveness and efficiency in the delivery of services to the people of China, and ultimately the kind of success that we are seeing in China or have witnessed in China in the last few decades, unprecedented by humanity's standards. And it is something that we can appeal and urge the CPC to continue executing, because by them doing that, they are providing role models for everyone else around the world, a role model that others can follow suit.
The infrastructure in impoverished areas has significantly improved. The basic public service levels constantly rising, and the poverty alleviation mechanism taking important steps ahead. So China has paid high attention to the implementation of the United Nations Declaration and the 2030 Agenda. And according to World Bank's international poverty line of $1.9 per day per person per day, from 1981 to 2013, China lifted 850 million people out of poverty, with the percentage of people living in extreme poverty falling from 88% to 1.85%, which is quite significant.
And here's what's coming up in the sport. Valentino Rossi gets a hero's send-off after his final race in Valencia.